If you're raising a child with autism, you've probably experienced the confusion that comes with trying to make sense of it all. One expert says one thing, another says the opposite. And social media is full of opinions. Every week there's a new therapy, a new program, a new approach claiming to be the answer. And somewhere in the middle of all this noise, you're trying to figure out what's actually best for your child. That's why I recommend Lynn R. Curry and Elevate How You Navigate. Lynn is the father of an autistic son, host of the Autism Parenting Secrets podcast, and someone who understands firsthand how overwhelming the autism journey can be. His focus isn't on adding more noise. It's on helping parents gain clarity, confidence, and a practical path forward. Through his coaching and guidance, Lynn helps parents cut through the noise, sort through conflicting advice, and make decisions with greater confidence. The goal isn't to tell you what to think. It's to help you navigate your family's unique situation with greater certainty and purpose. Lynn offers a free strategic clarity call where you can discuss your family's challenges, explore opportunities for growth, and identify meaningful next steps. To learn more or schedule your free call, visit elevatehowyounavigate.com. Because when parents have clarity, they can navigate with confidence, and that can make all the difference in the world. First, I would like to mention MAYU water. If you're trying to upgrade your hydration, MAYU uses a vortex flow system that mimics how water naturally moves in rivers and streams. That motion helps increase oxygenation and release unwanted gases like chlorine, improving overall water quality and making it easier to stay consistently hydrated. But here's what most people overlook. Hydration isn't just about water. It's about minerals and absorption. MAYU allows you to remineralize your water with essential minerals and electrolytes, supporting cellular hydration, energy levels, and overall physiological balance. When your water has the right structure and mineral content, your body can actually use it more efficiently. If you care about hydration, performance, or just feeling better day to day, this is one of those simple upgrades that adds up. You can get 10% off with the code AUTISM. Next, Daylight Computer Company and Daylight Kids. These devices are designed to work with your brain, not against it. And honestly, the future of tech is already here. Most screens are built for stimulation, bright, fast, and attention-grabbing. But that often leads to eye strain, mental fatigue, and disrupted sleep. Daylight takes a different approach. By reducing blue light and lowering overall sensory load, these devices support sustained focus, calmer attention, and healthier sleep patterns. For anyone who feels drained after screen time, or for kids whose nervous systems are still developing, this creates a much more natural, regulated way to engage with technology. If you want your tech to support your brain instead of overstimulating it, this is worth checking out. Use code AUTISM for $50 off. And finally, Chroma light devices, lights designed for humans. Natural light contains a full spectrum that our brains and bodies are tuned to. But most modern indoor lighting falls short of that. It's often narrow, harsh, and out of sync with how we're designed to experience light. Chroma is built to bring that balance back. These lights are designed to better reflect the qualities of natural light, supporting your circadian rhythm, reducing sensory strain, and creating environments that feel calmer and more aligned. That can translate into better sleep, more stable energy, and a nervous system that isn't constantly being pushed toward overload. If you have ever felt off under certain lighting and didn't know why, This is worth exploring. Get 10% off with the code AUTISM. If you're optimizing your environment, your focus, your well-being, your nervous system, these products are worth checking out. This is part 8 of the Autism and the Structure of Reality series. The architecture of the self. How repetition becomes character. When things are the way they are, why are they the way they are? Throughout this series, we've explored. Part 1 was the self. Part 2 was the self and the crowd. Part 3 was how perception matches reality and is created through the mind. Part 4 was illusion versus reality. Part 5 were the systems. Part 6 was the 3 temptations from Matthew 4 and what owns you. Part 7 was the transformation, the how to take control of your life through the Beatitudes. But beneath all of these topics lies a deeper question. How does a human being actually become who they become? Why does one person become resilient, disciplined, courageous, and aligned, while another becomes avoidant, fearful, reactive, and trapped? Why do some people become increasingly free and others increasingly owned? The autistic mind often exposes machinery that most people never notice. Heightened sensory input, intense pattern recognition, precise cost calculations, and vivid prediction errors make the internal calculators visible. Once you can see these calculations, you can begin to redesign them. Remember the excitation and inhibition phenomena with the autistic phenotype. This is a big factor. Perhaps a human life is not built all at once. Perhaps it is built one valuation at a time, one thought at a time, one decision at a time, one repeated pattern at a time. Remember, humans have an infinite capacity for thinking. Those thoughts are human creation. And you don't owe your thoughts anything. You are not obligated to those thoughts. Eventually, the pattern becomes the person. And the brain is not reacting to reality. One of the biggest misunderstandings about human behavior is the assumption that people are responding directly to reality. Psychologically and neurologically, that is not actually true. You are not responding to the world. You are responding to the predictions you have of the world. That distinction changes everything. Prediction sits between reality, perception, action, emotion, and behavior. The brain is constantly asking, what is about to happen? What does this mean? What should I do? What is the likely outcome? What should I expect? You are running models in your brain. This is what it is, the capacity of the human brain. We're constantly running models of the world around us. This is a big factor for sustaining our species, but it comes with a cost. The living organism is continuously constructing predictions and then responding to those predictions, not merely to reality itself. This is why two people can encounter the exact same situation and experience completely different worlds, because their predictions are different. And those predictions are built from experience, reinforcement, learning, memory, belief, and repetition. In part 3, we covered the mind constructs reality. We've also covered the brain is not merely reacting to the world. It is predicting the world and updating itself through repeated patterns. Now we arrive at a deeper realization. These constructions are not passive. They are active simulations running 24 hours a day. For many autistic people, this mismatch between those simulations and incoming reality is especially vivid, which is why sensory overload, demand avoidance, And intense pattern recognition can feel so immediate. Remember the excitation inhibition. There's so much more raw sensory information coming in for the autistic phenotype. In contrast, the so-called typical will generalize that, get a gist, and send the raw sensory information through to be perceived. This is sensation perception. You are not merely experiencing reality. You are experiencing reality through the models you have built of it. For the autistic phenotype, this is like a fire hose of information versus, let's say, a kitchen faucet. There's a big difference there in water flow, water pressure, the amount of output. And the brain is a metabolic bank accountant. This is another job for the brain. It is not primarily interested in truth. It is interested in survival, energy conservation, and efficiency. In the whiteboard series, I call this the metabolic bank accountant. That's kind of stolen from Lisa Feldman Barrett, who's exceptional on this type of research and understanding. The brain is constantly calculating. How much energy do I have? How much will it cost? How much reward might I receive? So is it worth doing? Should I repeat this? Should I avoid this? Underneath much of human behavior sits a simple equation. Reward minus cost equals value. If reward is high, you repeat. If cost is high, you avoid. Remember the 3 temptations. The first one, you're just living reactive, impulsive, trying to soothe yourself, comfort yourself in the here and now. Why do people procrastinate, avoid difficult conversations, stay in unhealthy situations, seek comfort, repeat destructive habits? Because the brain is constantly evaluating the value, not necessarily truth, not necessarily meaning, but value. For many autistic individuals, a task that appears trivial to others may carry enormous sensory, social, uncertainty costs. The accountant is not calculating laziness. It is calculating energy expenditure. The brain is protecting what it perceives to be a very expensive energy budget. Thoughts are just human creations. This is where things become especially important. Many people assume their thoughts are reality, but thoughts are not reality. Thoughts are human creation. That does not make thoughts useless. Thoughts can solve problems, build civilizations, create science, generate art, transform lives. But thoughts can also distort, catastrophize, rationalize, justify, inflate, deceive. As we discussed in part 6, temptation rarely begins as behavior. It begins as interpretation. It begins as a thought. Humans have a steep gradient, infinite good to infinite bad. One of the deepest mistakes human beings make is assuming that every thought deserves belief, engagement, emotional commitment, identification. But thoughts are often generated by fear, defensive structures, impulsive valuation, insecurity, avoidance, the nervous system's desire for rapid stabilization. Thoughts often feel convincing because they reduce the tension, not because they are necessarily true. A thought does not know you. You owe it nothing. You do not have to believe it. You do not have to identify with it. Humans have to be cautious of what you attach your identity to, because repeated identification becomes repetition, and repetition becomes training. For autistic minds, thoughts often arrive with unusual intensity and persistence. The same machinery that enables deep focus and special interest can also create powerful, ruminating loops. Recognizing that thoughts are creations, not reality itself, provides leverage over them. So repetition will train the self. This may be the most important section of this entire episode, because repetition is never neutral. Repetition always teaches something. It updates prediction, behavior, expectation, valuation, identity. Eventually, the organism begins automating what is repeated. Why? Because automation conserves energy. Habits emerge, patterns emerge, beliefs emerge. And then something fascinating happens. The repeated pattern begins shaping the person. Thought becomes pattern. Pattern becomes valuation. Valuation becomes behavior. Behavior becomes character. And character becomes identity. Eventually, people say, "This is just who I am," without realizing that what they call personality may simply be years of repeated reinforcement. The autistic brain's exceptional pattern recognition can magnify this process. It can become trapped by destructive repetitions, but it can also become liberated through intentional repetitions. The autistic phenotype, being so-called different, is battling social norms. This is the biggest problem. There's some people that think autistics outgrow the phenotype. It's partially true, I think. Developmental processes catch up. But the autistic phenotype at some point can begin controlling their environment. This is a big factor. The same mechanism works in both directions. So now let's connect the previous episodes with temptation and transformation. Part 6 asked, "What owns you?" Part 7 asked, "What frees you?" This episode answers, how does either one happen? Temptation trains repetition. Repeated temptation trains valuation. Repeated valuation trains the policy. And policy becomes your identity. This is well outlined in the whiteboard series about internal calculators. We map that out neurobiologically. Transformation follows the exact same mechanism. Humility repeated. Courage repeated. Mercy repeated. Alignment repeated. Truth repeated. Those repetitions also train the self. This is why character develops slowly, because repetition is always teaching. So the question is, what is it teaching? The policy is perhaps the deepest concept in the entire calculator framework. Policy is not merely action. Policy is your beliefs, your habits, your expectations, your personality, your phenotype, your way of moving through reality. Remember, we map this out to the dorsal striatum. We have many episodes on the basal ganglia. For the neurobiology, this is where it's happening. Remember, we even said you don't define motivation. And this is why. This is why I say you don't define motivation. your central nervous system does. Policy is your operating system for reality. It is a culmination of default predictions, cost-reward weightings, identity commitments, and nervous system adaptations. The brain and body does not want to work. It just wants to respond. In many ways, policy is who you become. One reason life feels difficult is because we imagine we are making isolated decisions. But most decisions are not isolated. They are votes. Votes for a future self. Votes for a future identity. Votes for a future character. Every repetition casts another vote, and eventually, the policy becomes the person. For autistic individuals who can often observe these calculations running in unusual high resolution, there may be a unique opportunity here to gain root access and begin editing the policy itself. The problem is, in my estimation, my experience, the social norm, the systems outlined in, let's say, part 5 or part 2, when we discuss Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, Dostoevsky, and Jung a little bit more, the systems clash with the autistic phenotype, and society does not know what to do with the autistic phenotype. It attempts to change it. It attempts to mold it into the system instead of utilizing the so-called autistic phenotype's superpowers. I want to caution using the word superpowers. However, there are major superpowers with the sensory processing, with this ability to learn, because this is what we're talking about, the learning. We have accelerated learning, especially with the visual thinking. There are things like iterative learning that is so powerful for understanding. Across this series, we have explored perception, prediction, the self, the crowd, systems, temptation, and transformation. And now, perhaps, we arrive at a final realization. Human beings are not shaped only by major events. Now, we can be with the so-called one-trial learning, but typically it's repetition. Humans are shaped by repeated thoughts, repeated attention, repeated valuation, repeated avoidance, repeated courage, repeated alignment. All of this is training the policy, and eventually, the pattern becomes the person. If repetition creates character, then every avoidance is training avoidance. Every act of courage is training courage. Every resentment is training resentment. Every act of mercy is training mercy. We are always practicing becoming someone. The policy becomes the self. Character is often nothing more and nothing less than the accumulated consequences of what we repeatedly reinforce. Perhaps the most important realization of all. You are not merely the sum of your repetitions. You are the author of the next repetition. If you're listening to the podcast, listening to the episode, please feel free to leave a review or rating. In podcasting, reviews, ratings, and downloads are huge. I very much appreciate your feedback. You can contact me on X at RPS47586. You can email me, info.fromthespectrum@gmail.com. You can check out the YouTube page for full-length videos and shorts and clips. Thank you for listening to From the Spectrum podcast.